save billions of dollars. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must reply to the Green member and say that when it comes to economic rationale, it's a frightening thought for all New Zealanders to consider the economic stupidity that would result from a Greens-Labour opposition. And that's very illogical to be able to stand in the House here when you just talk about some of the things that the opposition would do to this country's economy. They would bring in place a capital gains tax. They would charge people for water. They would increase the ETS. They would increase the personal tax rate, and they would cap the number of dairy farmers. We have heard from the other side of the House that they would reverse the Crown pastoral lease laws, and they would use the tenure review to force farming to pay more than their good share of what is fair and reasonable. But on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, I want to concentrate for the remaining time of this debate on the very positive things, the 5 positive things that this government is going to do, the targets that it has set. One of them is reducing long-term welfare dependency. And when we stop and think about that, Mr. Speaker, that is going to be a very positive step, because the sooner we can get people off living on handouts, the more positive they will be and the more potential they will realise. It's very important that we have to reverse the mentality that was instilled into the population of New Zealand over the 9 years of a Labour government. We will do more to support vulnerable children. We will make sure that 98%, an aspirational target but a positive one, of ensuring 98% of children go to early childhood education. And when you stop and think of that, that will set them up to realise their potential, get them on into the compulsory education system and be very successful. Those are just 2 very positive thoughts that we are really going to be working towards. 95% of immunisation by the age of 8 months old. 2017, we are going to aim to have 95% of our children at 8 months old being fully immunised. Now, you hear a lot about reverting back into third world health conditions. The standards of immunisation under Labour was as low as 67%. A really worthwhile goal on this side of the House is to ensure that we do everything to prevent those preventable diseases. We're going to make sure that we reduce the incident of child abuse by more than 1,000, from 4,000 down to 3,000. Now, that's a very admirable aim to have, because there's so much discussion on the other side of the House about why isn't more being done, because really nothing was done over the 9 years. A lot of talk, very, very little action. And we're very pleased, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House that we've got a Minister of Social Development that has commenced the white paper process, and we have come to a stage now where there's many thousands of submissions to be heard. They will all be read individually, and what will come out of the other end is a very unified thought about how we approach this very difficult situation. But more, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about boosting skills and employment. The rest of the OECD is troubled with the levels of unemployment between the 18-year-old and 25-year-old. So this side of the House, one of our major aims is to ensure that those of an age of 18 leave with a necessary level of education, NCEA level 2, so that they can realise their potential. That has been identified because on the very fundamental basis of it, if you want to be able to realise your potential, to be able to move across various fields, whether it be trades or university, you need that independent ability to be able to learn extramurally. I see that, Mr. Speaker, as a very important aim to have. We want 55% of our 25 to 34-year-olds to be achieving at level 4 and above. And that is very important too, because we are in the world today competing with all the other people in the many other countries, and we are doing remarkably well, but this government is determined to do better. So, Mr Speaker, it is a wonderful privilege to be on this side of the House with a Prime Minister of the nature and calibre of Don P. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Andrew Williams.
Order, Mr Speaker.